The World Health Organization says cases of COVID-19 are not on the rise dramatically outside China as they are in Hubei province. There have been 2 deaths and 447 cases in 24 countries compared to Hubei province, which recorded 242 deaths on Wednesday, the deadliest day of the outbreak. Here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London. Some 242 deaths from the new coronavirus were recorded in the Chinese province of Hubei on Wednesday, making it the deadliest day of the outbreak. There was also a huge increase in the number of cases, with 14,840 people diagnosed with the virus. Hubei has started using a broader definition to diagnose people, which accounts for most of the rise in the cases. China sacked 2 top officials in Hubei province hours after the new figures were released. Until Wednesday's increases, the number of people with the virus in Hubei, where the outbreak emerged, was stabilizing. Meanwhile, a cruise ship that was stranded at sea because ports were worried about passengers bringing the virus has been allowed to dock in Cambodia. The MS Westerdam had been turned away by 5 places in Asia in recent days.
Just so happy to be at dock.
Another cruise ship in quarantine in Japan has more than 200 infections, but the Westerdam, with more than 2,000 crew and passengers, has none. Only on Tuesday, the cruise liner attempted to dock in Bangkok, but was denied permission. A Thai Navy ship escorted her out of the Gulf of Thailand, from where she set course for Cambodia. On Thursday morning, the ship finally arrived at an anchoring point in the port city of Sihanoukville. All of the bushfires in New South Wales are now considered contained. That's according to fire officials in the Australian state. The New South Wales Rural Fire Service said it was great news after a very traumatic, exhausting and anxious time. The development is thanks in part to heavy rain, which has lashed the state since last weekend. But the severe storms have led to flash flooding in Queensland, where a 75-year-old man is reported to have died. It is the first time in the fire season that containment, which means firefighters managed to build a perimeter around the fire so it cannot spread further, has been achieved. The chairman of the Democratic Party in Iowa has resigned after last week's caucus was beset with technical issues, questions over accuracy and delays. In his resignation letter, Troy Price said that the precinct and satellite caucus meetings themselves went well, but he conceded that the process of reporting results was unacceptable. Pete Buttigieg won a narrow 0.1% victory over Bernie Sanders in terms of delegates, while Senator Sanders won the popular vote. Since then, the Sanders campaign has asked for recanvassing check of the vote. Iowa Democratic leaders will elect a new local leader on Saturday. An audit into football's governing body in Africa has shown the organisation to be in a state of disarray. The investigation into the Confederation of African Football questioned the body's accounting, its governance and its payments. The audit, carried out by PricewaterhouseCoopers, highlighted transactions totalling more than $20 million, which either had little or no supporting documentation or were considered high risk. One area PwC suggested further investigating was the role played by CAF President Ahmad Ahmad and his attaché, among others, in the deal with French company Tactical Steel. The company's financial dealings with CAF were described as highly suspicious. Mr. Ahmad has already strenuously denied any wrongdoing. Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido has called President Nicolas Maduro a coward for allegedly detaining his uncle, who has been reported missing since they arrived at Caracas's main airport. Juan Jose Marquez passed migration normally and, as he was about to leave, was held for alleged tax review. A top Venezuelan government official later confirmed he was being held on suspicion of smuggling dangerous material into the country. Mr. Marquez is not the first person with links to Mr. Guaido to be arrested. His chief of staff, Roberto Marrero, was detained last year and remains in prison. And finally, a 4-month-old polar bear cub went on its first outdoor outing at Vienna's main zoo on Thursday, with the animal's parks director calling it a fantastic moment. The cub, whose gender is still unknown and which has yet to be named, was accompanied by its mother Nora, who, according to their keeper, does an excellent job. The cub was born on November the 9th, Vienna's first birth of a polar bear in over 12 years. Visitors to the zoo are invited to come up with name proposals for the new cub. And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Thanks a lot, Simon. On to some sports now. Here's Charles Aruka.
Many thanks, Ijoma, and welcome to Sports News. The Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, says the ministry will prevent a repeat of 2012 and 2016 Olympics, where Nigeria ended the Games with an abysmal performance. The minister met with the Ministerial Advisory Committee and the Sports Federation's presidents who will represent Nigeria at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Nigeria ended the 2012 Games in London without any medal. The 2016 edition in Rio de Janeiro with a bronze medal, and the minister stressed that they need to maintain a common ground in order to give Nigeria a worthy representation at the Games. Budget allocation, accreditation processes, mobilization of funds, and sponsorship for the Games were also discussed. Football now. Manchester United have confirmed that Odion Ighalo's confinement from their training ground is just precautionary and has always been part of the plan. Ighalo, who joined United in a deadline day move from Chinese club Shanghai Shenhua, was banned from the club's training complex amid fears over spreading the coronavirus. The 30-year-old has not tested positive for COVID-19 and, as part of the government's precautionary procedures, has been put on a 2-week incubation period ending this weekend. Now, this coincides with United's return to the UK from their training camp in Spain, which Ighalo had missed over similar concerns. The Nigerian striker has been training in Manchester's Taekwondo Centre on the Etihad campus and will be part of Manchester United's travelling party when they face Chelsea at Stamford Bridge on Monday, February the 17th. Meanwhile, Chelsea have reached an agreement with Ajax Amsterdam to sign the Dutch club's winger Hakim Ziyech this summer. The 26-year-old was a January transfer target for Chelsea manager Frank Lampard. Ajax Amsterdam were unwilling to sell the Morocco international in the transfer window as they chased the Dutch Eredivisie title. Ajax Amsterdam have also confirmed they've accepted a fee of 40 million euros, potentially rising to 44 million, with the move subject to Ziyech agreeing personal terms. The signing is the first by Lampard following Chelsea's transfer ban. Now to motor racing. McLaren have become the latest team to unveil its new Formula One cars for the 2020 season. At an event at the McLaren Technology Centre in England, the team lifted the covers of the new McLaren MCL 35 car that will be driven by Carlos Sainz Jr. and Lando Norris during the upcoming campaign. The MCL 35 retains the team's papaya and blue color scheme from the previous season. McLaren enjoyed its best season for 8 years in 2019 as it finished 4th in the Constructors' Championship, heading the midfield teams. The McLaren MCL 35 car will make its on-track debut at the start of pre-season testing at Barcelona on February the 19th. That's it on Sports News, and it's back to Ijoma.
Thanks a lot, Charles. And the main news again. Less than 24 hours to the swearing-in of Mr. David Lyon as governor of Bayelsa State, the Supreme Court today nullified his election over false credentials presented by his running mate. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Unyato. Good night.